Welcome. Today we're diving into the wild world of Ark Survival Evolved. From its meteoric rise to its somewhat bumpy ride with DLCs, and finally, the release of Ark Survival Ascended. Let's rewind to 2015. The gaming world was buzzing with excitement. Why? Because Ark Survival Evolved had just hit the scene. Ark offered something unique. It wasn't just another survival game. It was a survival game with dinosaurs. Who wouldn't want to tame a T-Rex and ride it into battle? The game quickly gained a massive following. Players were hooked on the thrill of exploring the island, building bases, and of course, taming those magnificent beasts. But it wasn't all sunshine and dino rides. Ark had its fair share of challenges. The game was notorious for its bugs and performance issues. Players often joked that the real survival challenge was getting the game to run smoothly. Despite these hiccups, the community remained loyal. After all, where else could you ride a dinosaur while wearing a cowboy hat? As the player base grew, so did the game's content. The developers, Studio Wildcard, released several DLCs, each promising new adventures and creatures. The first major expansion, Scorched Earth, introduced a desert biome, complete with new creatures like the fearsome wyvern. It was a hit, and players eagerly dove into the scorching sands. However, not all DLCs were met with the same enthusiasm. Aberration, for example, took players to an underground, radiation-filled world. While it had its fans, some players found it too challenging and frustrating. The novelty of the new environment wore off quickly, and many returned to the familiar islands of the base game. Although in fairness, Aberration is overall looked back upon quite fondly. Then came Extinction, which brought the fight to Earth. This DLC introduced massive titans that players could battle and tame. It sounded epic on paper, but in practice, it was a mixed bag. The titans were impressive, but the gameplay loop started to feel repetitive. Players began to notice a pattern. New DLCs meant new biomes and creatures, but the core gameplay remained largely unchanged. The final nail in the coffin for some was the Genesis expansions. Split into two parts, these DLCs introduced missions and a more structured narrative. While some appreciated the new direction, others felt it strayed too far from the open-world sandbox experience that made Ark special. The missions were often repetitive, and the new mechanics didn't always mesh well with the existing gameplay. As the years went by, the player base began to dwindle. The initial magic of taming dinosaurs and exploring a vast, mysterious world had faded. Many players moved on to other games, leaving Ark behind. But Studio Wildcard wasn't ready to throw in the towel just yet. Enter Ark Survival Ascended. Announced as a next-gen remaster of the original game, it promised improved graphics, better performance, and a host of quality-of-life improvements. For some, this was a chance to relive the glory days of Ark with a fresh coat of paint. For others, it felt like too little, too late. The release of Ark Survival Ascended was met with mixed reactions. On one hand, the improved visuals and performance were a welcome change. On the other hand, many players felt that the core issues of the game, the grindy gameplay, the bugs, and the sometimes frustrating mechanics, hadn't been fully addressed. So, what can we learn from the rise and fall of Ark Survival Evolved? First, it's clear that innovation and novelty can capture the hearts of players. The idea of surviving and thriving in a world filled with dinosaurs was a stroke of genius. But maintaining that excitement requires more than just new content. It requires meaningful improvements and a willingness to address player feedback. Second, it's a reminder that even the most beloved games can lose their luster if they don't evolve. Players crave new experiences, but they also want those experiences to feel fresh and engaging. Simply adding new biomes and creatures isn't enough if the underlying gameplay remains the same. Finally, it's a testament to the power of community. Despite its flaws, Ark built a passionate and dedicated player base. The game's success was driven by the creativity and enthusiasm of its players, who built incredible structures, shared their adventures, and kept the world of Ark alive. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more gaming content. Until next time, happy surviving.